Hello my dear sewing friends, it's Alisa here, and this is what we're going to be making in today's tutorial. This zipper pouch has boxed bottom corners, quilted outside, and fully lined inside. And of course, I'm going to guide you step by step so that way your project is successful as well. For your pattern, you're going to need just a simple A4 or a letter size sheet of paper. Simply grab it. And now, instead of folding it in half, offset it from the top by about 1 inch or approximately 2.5 centimeters. And then fold. And that's it. What you have here is going to be our main pattern piece. You will need to cut 6 of these, 2 for the outer fabric, 2 for the lining, and then 2 from the interfacing. This time I'm using fusible fleece, but as always, there are many options when it comes to sewing. So if you have just regular quilting batting, you can use that as well. Or if you have interfacing for decor, that might work too. For the outer layer of the zipper pouch, today I'm going to be using just a regular quilting cotton. For the inner layer, for the lining, I'm also going to be using 100% cotton, but this time on a lighter side, something like cotton voile. Of course, you don't have to stop there. You can also go for something like faux leather or some fun and fancy tweeds. We will also need a zipper. Mine is just a regular standard nylon zipper that is just about 11 inches long. Additionally, you will need to cut 2 rectangles. These are about 2 inches by 3 inches each. And then you will also need to cut 2 long strips. You can cut these on a straight or on the bias. These are 1.25 inches by about 8 inches long. Once all of your pattern pieces are cut, let's move on with the assembly. First, we're going to grab the outer fabric and the fusible fleece. Grab the fusible fleece and place it with the rough side up, that's the side where we have the glue, and place the outer fabric with the right side up. Now we're ready to fuse it. When done, we are going to quilt it. Now you don't have to do this step, you can skip it, but I do think that it adds a really nice touch. Now we are going to be sewing through quite a lot of layers here, so definitely check what kind of needle you have in your sewing machine, because we want something that is going to be able to go through that thickness. So 1940 might do just fine. If you have something a little bit bigger, definitely change to that. I'm going to take my ruler and water-soluble pen and make lines. But of course, you can come up with your own design. You don't necessarily have to follow what I do here. If you have embroidery thread, definitely get it out and use it for this project. If not, totally fine. You can use regular thread. But I do like using embroidery thread for projects like these because it usually has a little bit of sheen to it, so it adds a little bit of pop. For this, I like to select a straight stitch that's a little bit longer than usual, and then each of the lines, I start and end with a little back stitch. When I do this, I like to go for a diamond pattern. Now this next step is purely optional, but I do like to add a little label. To hold my label in place while I stitch it down, I use a little trick. Here's a little hemming tape that's a double-sided adhesive. I cut a little strip and then apply it and fuse it to wherever I need it to be. Then I stitch down the label without worrying that it's going to move or be crooked. Next, switch back to your regular thread and let's work on a zipper. We're going to cut it down to about 7 inches. So from the start here till here, about 7 inches. I've already made my mark and we're going to cut. Next, let's grab these 2 smaller pieces of fabric, fold them in half and press. After that, pop them open, fold down 3/8 of an inch, press. We're going to do that on the other side as well. As a result, you're going to have 2 pieces that look like this. Now grab your zipper because we are going to attach these on the ends. Open up one of these and place the front, the beginning of the zipper, right into it, like so, with the metal part sticking just outside of the fabric. Then pin like so, and let's head to the sewing machine. Here we're going to attach it to the fabric using a regular straight stitch with a back stitch at the beginning and at the end. Once done, it's going to look like this. To complete the side, we're going to close it like so and do another straight stitch right here. Keep in mind that I'm not stitching over any metal parts of the zipper, and if your zipper does have metal teeth, make sure that you hand crank over them, because otherwise you will break or bend your needle. To complete the other side, grab one of the pieces for your zipper pouch and mark 1/2 inch from each side. You can see my pink pins right over here. So the goal is to make sure that the zipper with the completed ends would be just right here between one pin and the other. So when you go ahead and attach it to the other side, you want to make sure that that's exactly what you get. At the sewing machine, you're going to repeat all of the same steps as we did on the other side. Now grab the lining, the zipper, and the front of the pouch. Mine is marked with the label. Grab the zipper. With the zipper pull, place it down like so between the 2 pins that mark 1/2 inch from each side of the front of the zipper pouch. Then take your lining piece, X marks the right side of the fabric, and place it right sides facing with the outer layer of the pouch. It will help if your zipper is halfway open, and then pin everything together. At the sewing machine, switch to the zipper foot and a slightly longer straight stitch. Align the edge of the zipper foot with your fabric and stitch from top to bottom in a straight line. Once you reach the zipper pull, leave the needle inside of your project, lift up the presser foot, wiggle the zipper pull out of the way, and continue stitching. This is what you're going to have once done. Bring the wrong sides of the fabrics together like so. So that way we can access the other side of the zipper, and we're going to repeat the same steps on the other side. Take the back of your zipper pouch, place it right sides facing with the front. Once again, align the top edge with the edge of the zipper. Take the lining piece, X marks the right side of the fabric, place it down. Then place your project on top. Sandwich all 3 together, aligning at the top, and stitch it together. Now pop it all open and give the fabric around the zipper a good press on both sides, outer and inner. At this point, if you'd like, you can snip these pieces right over here, or if they're not creating too much thickness, you can leave them in. Now, with the zipper foot still in the sewing machine, we're going to top stitch the zipper on both sides. To do that, I have switched back to my embroidery thread so that way it matches the rest of the quilting on the pouch. To get a nice and clean straight line, align this edge of the zipper foot with this edge of the fabric, the one that reveals the zipper. Now, pop the zippin open and bring together 2 sides of the outer layer of the pouch, like this. We are going to align the bottom and sew it with a straight stitch and 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. On the other side, we're going to do the same with the lining, but this time we're going to sew with 1/2 inch seam allowance. In my experience, this makes the lining of zipper pouch a little bit less baggy and fit a little bit better on the inside. Remember that for this part, you're going to switch back to your regular presser foot. Now we're going to press these seam allowances. Open up this seam allowance and press it to one side. When done, flip it. Bring the other seam allowance and press it as well. We're going to do the same right here. Now have your pouch open like this. Place your hand inside of the lining and then pop the other side inside of it, like this. On the bottom, make sure that you place the seam allowance open and the seam allowance open, and bring those 2 seams together so that way they align. Place a little pin to hold it together, and then do exactly the same thing on the other side. Now, straighten the side seams like this. Make sure that they align on top and we're going to stitch them with 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and with a straight stitch, starting and ending with a back stitch. Once done, you will see there's a little bit of a gap between this part of the covered zipper and the stitch that we just made, and that's all right because we will need this space for the turn of the fabric and this seam allowance. Now you're going to repeat exactly the same steps on the other side. Next, grab the two little long strips and we're going to use them to bind and enclose these raw edges. Alright, so this particular part of the project isn't necessarily tricky. You just need a couple of helpful tips in order to get through it. So here's tip number 1. It might be really tempting to use store-bought bias tape, but I would really suggest making your own. Especially if you make it from a lightweight cotton, it will add less bulk and it's going to be easier for you to work with. Tip number 2 is that since these parts are straight, your bias tape doesn't actually have to be cut on the bias. Take one of the strips and place it right on the seam, aligning with the edge, so that way these pieces stick out. Wrap this part over the top. And now at the sewing machine, we're actually going to sew it like this, just this part. This is just to keep it in place, so no back stitch is necessary. Now, wrap your bias tape around the top, align it with the edge, and place it underneath your presser foot. Since we are going to be sewing through a lot of layers, I have increased my stitch length even more. Once you get close to the bottom, wrap the end around the bottom, hold it with your fingers, and then finish stitching it down. The stitch here that we just did is also at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, so it matches the first one that we did in order to keep the sides together. Now, flip the bias tape over. Let's turn the project. Here at the corners, I like to tuck it in on the angle so that way this part is nice and tight. Then fold it in and wrap around the seam like this. We're going to repeat the same on this side. So I'm going to tuck it in on the angle, fold it in, and then wrap around the seam. Now with the sewing machine, we're going to stitch it down right over here. Alright, our seam is enclosed. Now we're going to repeat the same steps on the other side. The last and final step is to do boxed corners. For that, we're going to look inside of the pouch and we're going to find the bottom seam first. Next, we're going to find the side seam right over here. And then we're going to bring these together like this. We want to make sure that they align. Straighten out the corner with your fingers, and once these two touch the side seam and the bottom seam, place a pin to hold them both together. Now from the top right over here, measure 1 inch down and make a mark. From that mark, I took a straight line across, and that's how we're going to sew this corner. As always, long straight stitch with a back stitch at the beginning and at the end. When you have a big thick piece like this, it is easier if you fold it in a direction of how you're going to be sewing. Well, that was the final step. Just go ahead, snip off the threads and turn everything right side out. I leave those corners as they are, and that's it. Your pouch is ready to go. Well, there you have it. We made a zipper pouch. If you want to see more quick and easy projects with step-by-step instructions, then definitely click right over here. Thank you so much for watching. Happy sewing. I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye!